Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the RSA Global Summit, Mike Huckabee.
Hello, bonjour, guten tag, hola, assalamu alaikum, ni hao, konnichiwa. Now, I could go on like this all afternoon, but in the essence of time, welcome. Welcome to RSA's first ever Global Summit, where we've brought together under this roof our global customer base and our global product portfolio. First time ever. Now, we've been working very, very hard to put on this event for you. We're so excited that it's getting started today, and we're so excited that all of you could be here and join us. Now, we pulled together what we think is a pretty fantastic lineup. Now, we have keynotes from the usual suspects, Art Coviello and Amit Yoran. We've also invited some distinct voices to get a little different perspective. We have Robert Herjavec, founder of the Herjavec Group, and he does that thing on TV called Shark Tank. We have Teresa Payton, former CIO of the White House and the first woman to ever hold that position. We have Jane Holt-Lute, President and CEO of the Council on Cybersecurity and former Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And to top it all off, we have Alan Bean, Apollo astronaut, fourth man to walk on the moon, and an award-winning artist. Talk about your Renaissance man. Now, beyond all of those keynotes, we have more than 60 educational sessions, 12 hands-on, and 20 sessions run by you, our customers. And these are where you're going to learn best practices from your peers, from industry experts, through real-world use case presentations. Now, over the next 3 days, you're going to be immersed in presentations, demonstrations, discussions, and hands-on labs. And we hope we're going to have a little bit of fun, too. From the dinners and the networking events to our charity event tomorrow night to benefit the Boulder Crest Retreat for Military and Veteran Wellness, to the great attractions of this great city of Washington, D.C. We promise you that you'll leave this summit informed, inspired, and ready to take your organization's security programs to the next level. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, our first presenter needs no introduction, but I'm going to do one anyway. Art Coviello, Executive Chairman of RSA, is frequently consulted by governments, businesses, media, and others for his unique perspective on the threat landscape that we all have to deal with and how the security industry and security programs need to evolve to ensure that we can achieve a trusted digital world. Ladies and gentlemen, Art Coviello.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Mike, for that very energetic introduction. Well, I would also like to extend my welcome. Welcome to RSA's first ever Global Summit. And as Mike was saying, in the past, we've had numerous customer events around the world talking about individual products. And this is the first time we've brought together customers from around the globe with our entire product portfolio under one roof as opposed to one roof. I just want to make that distinction. All right. I'm sure Amit will somehow, every speaker will get even with the last speaker. All right, so this is the first time that you'll get to see our end-to-end intelligence-driven security vision discussed, explored, and experienced in one time and in one place. This is about you. You're our partners in the battle to create a trusted world for communication, collaboration, and innovation. RSA wants to give you the tools you need. And from ourselves and our go-to-market partners the expertise you need to not just fight this battle that we're all in, but to win it. And win it we undoubtedly will. But to win the battle, we're going to need vision and execution. You need both. One without the other is insufficient. Vision without execution is merely dreaming. Execution without vision is like driving blindly down an unfamiliar road. It rarely ends well. Now, many of you know that I'm an avid student of history and frequently draw upon it as a lens through which to view events and trends. And today's going to be no different as I talk to you about execution and vision through the lens of several of our U.S. presidents. And I'll start with William Howard Taft, who was very, very good and skilled in execution, but he lacked vision and foresight. His inability to sense the, the larger landscape in which he operated led him to be overwhelmingly defeated in his bid for re-election. Who is he defeated by? Woodrow Wilson, a man widely admired for his vision, but whose ability to execute frequently left his vision unfulfilled. You all know he was the driving force behind the creation of the League of Nations after World War I, but he wasn't able to get his country to join. Now, President Wilson had an assistant secretary of the Navy who was a man who embodied both vision and execution. His ability to foresee the eventual engagement of the U.S. in the First World War enabled our Navy to be well prepared as we entered that war with sufficient resource. Assistant Secretary Franklin Delano Roosevelt continued to hone his vision and unparalleled executive skills throughout his political career. In his 12 years as president, combining vision and execution, he led us out of the Depression and to victory in World War II. So to succeed, you need both vision and execution. For our industry, the security industry, it's been a battle to get that right balance between vision and execution. To be honest, go back about 15 years, it was a lot easier when we were in that client-server era, when we had more or less a fixed perimeter to hide behind, and threats were more easily identified and evolved more slowly. The combination of the industry's vision at that time around perimeter defenses enabled us to execute through firewalls, antivirus, intrusion detection systems, and, oh yeah, good old Secure ID. And it all worked pretty well. But times changed, and they changed rapidly. Over the past decade, mobile, cloud, and social technologies and the corresponding revolution in business practices that those technologies launched have just obliterated the perimeter. You all know that. And at the same time, technology's exponential development and spread simply outstripped our ability to respond. And we, as a security industry, have largely failed you. And you, as a profession, have not kept pace with the need for talent to address the issues of today. And as if technology's pace of emergence, advantage, and seismic impact on business process were not enough, remember, these trends were not coming about in a vacuum. We haven't been alone. Our adversaries have been with us every step of the day, taking advantage of evolving technologies and refining and honing their attacks. If I were to grade which one of us has adapted faster over the past few years, I'd have to say that the dishonorable adversaries get all the honors. And it's not as if we as an industry were just sitting back. Security products continued to make linear improvements over these years, but they were based on tired perimeter-based models. And we kept building better point products, addressing that vision of the past. That's the equivalent of us continuing, as a metaphor, to build better and faster biplanes in a jet era. And our adversaries have been building and flying F-18s. They adapted technologies and business practices of the new era and have been using them as a lever to open and expand the gap between them and us. But that gap will grow no wider. Today, we understand the gap. We know how we got here. And more importantly, we know how to overcome it with the right vision, the right model for security. That's the intelligence-driven security vision that you have heard us so often proclaim. We're closing the gap by ensuring that the vision of intelligence-driven security is united with effective execution. And this summit is going to be all about executing on that vision. You're already, as organizations, beginning to do it. And during this summit, our goal is to help you get more out of our solutions and close the gap between yourselves and your adversaries. Obviously, our biggest news this week at the summit is the launch of Security Analytics version 10.4 and ECAT version 4.0, which, coupled with Web Threat Detection version 5, give you not just SIM functionality and compliance, but enhanced end-to-end visibility and analysis into what's happening in your digital world. This shift from prevention to detection and response, from traditional signature-based analysis to deep packet meta-analysis, is a perfect example of how our security world needs to evolve in this new era. Also, over the next year, and quite frankly, during this summit, you're going to hear about us doing the same thing for identity management. Identity management, as it's currently practiced, is built for the previous era, for the client-server era, for centralized data centers and physically connected endpoints. We're reimagining it and building it for the mobile cloud world that we live in today. For too long, we've accepted the maxim that you can have security or convenience in identity management. You only get to pick one. Either it's secure and you and your users pull your hair out getting complex IAM solutions to work, or you make it easy and less secure, and then just keep your fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong. We're reimagining identity management so that it is easier to manage and use while delivering more sophisticated security than ever. We're talking about security vision and execution for the world in which we live today and will live in tomorrow. It's not enough for us to be visionary. We must be exceptional in our execution as well. Both you and us. And as we all know, this is not an easy task, and the road has not always been smooth. But RSA is working as hard as we possibly can and will continue to work hard to make it easier all the time. And we will continue to do so by building more and more intelligence into the security solutions you have deployed. We are the first and only company to bring the necessary assets together, as my colleague Amit Yoran will explain in his keynote. For too long, and especially over the last several years, the security industry has looked and acted like Rocky Balboa in his first fight with Apollo Creed, dazed and bloodied from the constant barrage from his adversary. We've been too reactive and defensive as an industry and profession. It's time for us to counterpunch, to combine vision and execution, to transition from reactive to predictive, and from a defensive to a proactive stance. It's time for us to go from being the hunted to the hunter, to see the attacker before he can inflict damage and take him down. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the summit this week. Thank you very much. And now, to talk about execution and how to operationalize our vision of intelligence-driven security, it's my pleasure to welcome on stage Amit Yoran. Thank
you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you here today. It's been a long-time professional goal of mine to be up here on stage with an enormous RSA logo. So if you guys will just bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to shoot a selfie. All right, we're going to post that up on the conference website later. No, but seriously, it's great to be back here in DC with so many of our original NetWitness customers and partners, and so many great RSA customers and partners from around the world. It's hard to believe that it's been almost 3.5 years since RSA acquired NetWitness. And while you and I are both shocked that I'm still here, just imagine how terrified Art Coviello is. When we started NetWitness in 2006, almost a decade ago, it was painfully obvious, based on all of the intrusions which were occurring and all of the break-ins, that we were at a point of catastrophic industry failure. There's really no simpler way to put it. Seriously, how else could we get so many government agencies and Fortune 500 companies convinced that recording all of your network traffic was actually a good idea? And think about it, back then, we weren't even owned by a hard drive company. So, nation-state-sponsored cyber espionage and cyber criminals, even back then, had already outpaced most government agencies and corporate networks defenders' ability to protect themselves. And rather than throwing our arms up in the air and declaring surrender and moving on to some more enjoyable pastime like online gaming or something similar to that, we decided to start doing things a little bit differently. Well, maybe a lot differently. We shifted from this unrealistic perspective that enterprise networks could be kept pristine and protected against all threats at all times to one which acknowledges the reality we live in today. And that is that given a modern and complex corporate technology environment and a focused adversary with intent, some skill, and enough time, compromises are inevitable. The question is not if, it's when and how badly. Will this intrusion be a nuisance, or will it be catastrophic? Now, this pessimistic but also realistic view of the world doesn't mean giving up on protecting your corporate network. It means that realize that you can't keep everything protected at all times. You have to prioritize what matters most to your organization. It means that you have to step up your game for intrusion detection. These advanced threat actors are in many cases using zero-day exploits and original techniques that have never been seen before. Or, more frequently, combinations of techniques which will evade detection. Signature-based intrusion detection methodologies are, by their very definition, incapable of finding these attacks. They rely on an understanding of how these attack methodologies work in order to detect them. They're bound to fail. And even when portions of these attacks can be detected, it's only a portion of the attack. It doesn't adequately scope or follow the progression of attack. It doesn't have the critical context beyond just the current exploit which is being attempted to help you understand what's really going on in this campaign. Right? It doesn't include the incident scoping. It doesn't include the understanding of multiple tools, techniques, and procedures. It doesn't understand the command and control infrastructure. It doesn't provide the compromise assessment. And it doesn't provide you information about the precise data which is being exfiltrated. And now, as silly as recording network traffic sounded about a decade ago, today, I rarely come across a security professional which doesn't already understand and believe that recording and analyzing their network traffic is an absolutely critical component of their network defense planning. But a decade ago, your network traffic consisted of largely the LAN-WAN engagement that you owned as part of your enterprise. Technology hasn't been standing still. Organizations have been racing to embrace smart and mobile-based technologies, many of which are privately owned. Enterprise data vaults, services, applications are being delivered not only in hosted models, but in complete software as a service and cloud-based delivery models. And not only has that pace of new technology adoption accelerated, but you better believe that our adversaries have not been sitting idle either. So what are we going to do about it? Right? We're evolving. We're changing. We're going to become more agile. We're aligning and integrating our capabilities to better enable our organizations to both embrace technology and deliver an improved security posture. In this perimeterless world, identity becomes even more critical. It becomes even more important to your security programs, to digital risk management, and to your organization's very survival. If you can't lock down the who, or with the Internet of Things, the what is accessing your data and your infrastructures, you've already lost the war. Now, we know that RSA for decades has been the leader in identity and access management. After nearly 30 years, right, Secure ID, that wonderful token that everybody loves so much, has been and is standing strong as the undisputed, unqualified leader in the world of strong two-factor authentication. And now, as organizations begin to migrate to the next generation of computing platforms, we're building much more flexible multi-factor authentication capabilities. Things like facial recognition, voice recognition, PIN, out-of-band text, and a dozen or so other strong authentication mechanisms for identifying and authenticating yourself, and we're doing it on mobile platforms. So by doing this, we're making it easier for users to authenticate themselves using the method of their choice on the platform of their choice. And by making it easy, we're reducing their desire to work around the system and ensuring that they comply with the security policies of the services that they're trying to access. Now, in addition to transforming the world of authentication, we're moving identity access management and governance from a compliance-based and from a paper-based system to one which is a living, breathing organism that your organization can rely on a day-to-day basis. From access request provisioning and deprovisioning of entitlements, regular views of access will help you drive efficiency and increase security and compliance in your environment. By expanding on the technology that we picked up in the Avaxa acquisition, we can deliver these capabilities into enterprise environments as well as to cloud-based services and applications. And oh, by the way, RSA's identity and access management and governance platform can be delivered as an on-prem solution or as a cloud-based service. I strongly encourage you to listen to Deepak and Jim Ducharme's sessions later in this area. Identity information provides critical context for a much deeper and broader understanding of what's happening in your traditional environment as well in the cloud-based applications and services that your enterprise relies on. Tightly managing and governing privileged access accounts is absolutely critical not only for compliance requirements and as a good governance practice, it's absolutely critical for doing security today in the face of advanced threats. A vast majority of these sophisticated threats use the abuse of privileged access accounts and/or their creation as a critical component of their sophisticated exploit methodologies. We'll talk more about that shortly. Similarly, organizations are transforming their security operations from compliance-only or compliance-centric to one that's risk-centric. And at the heart of that transformation is a comprehensive visibility and an understanding of what's happening in their digital environments. This isn't just legacy SIM and logging. It isn't even just legacy packet capture. This is real visibility into what's occurring. And it's the analytics to understand what you're seeing. Now, RSA's product in this area, which happens to be called Security Analytics, I know we're very creative with our marketing, provides this pervasive and true visibility into your enterprise. It also delivers a diverse set of security analytic methods to help you understand what's occurring. And our vision for security analytics doesn't just stop with the enterprise. It goes above and beyond into mobile and cloud-based applications and services, ingesting information from the identity feeds, authentication requests, the access management policy definitions that we just spoke about earlier, log data from across the enterprise, as well as from your cloud-based services and applications. Advanced security visibility from host-based compromise assessment tools like RSA's ECAT, which, by the way, if you aren't familiar with it and if your teams aren't using it, please make this trip worthwhile, learn more about it, bring a copy of it home. That product kicks ass. Marketing guys are going to make me pay for that later. Anyway, your guys will love it, or depending on what it finds, you may not love it so much. Ingesting information from DLP products, configuration data, vulnerability scan results, reconstructing and analyzing network traffic, NetWitness style, and external threat intelligence feeds. When you search for an IP address or a user or application or behavior or domain name, you want to be able to search your security data from across the enterprise, regardless of what form, factor, or system it came in from. This differentiated visibility and expansive visibility is in and of itself not enough. Visibility without analysis that yields meaningful insight falls shy of the true vision that is capable with modern technologies. We must combine visibility and analysis to build a comprehensive understanding of application, system, and user behaviors. Doing so gives us the ability to spot the anomalies that signify attack. Doing so frees us from the traditional signature-based approaches that have proven themselves ineffective in the face of advanced adversaries. In his vision session later, Grant Geyer will provide greater insight into the security analytics enhancements that we're releasing this month. And all I can say is that it's awesome. You will not be disappointed. Now, let's combine Archer, RSA's market-leading governance, risk, and compliance platform, to provide perspective. This is where you can align the security team with what matters most to the organization. What is the potential business impact of various attack and intrusion scenarios? A mature GRC program that gives you business context and insight needed to be able to prioritize your security activities where they can deliver the greatest value to the enterprise. This automation feeding data from Archer into security analytics, termed asset criticality intelligence, makes this possible. And the whole stack feeds hard data back into the GRC solution to provide evidence of compliance and help you better manage risk. Everything in this entire integrated stack works in unison to provide maximum value to you and your security program. Unifying these activities from identity to security monitoring, from the context of what matters most, from pervasive visibility and analysis, is exactly what's necessary to address today's and tomorrow's advanced threat campaigns. And unifying these activities is RSA's future. It represents intelligence-driven security. Completeness of visibility, context, speed of detection, and analytic possibility are only the biggest differentiators of what is intelligence-driven security. The ability to review all of the relevant data and context about any incident or investigation from a unified point of view is able to provide you a complete understanding of what's really going on. You can identify malicious activity that would have previously escaped detection. You might realize you're receiving a spear-phished email, but without that added intelligence, you might not realize that this is part of a much larger orchestrated and targeted campaign against your organization. Without understanding the fullness of the network traffic, you might not understand the complete command and control infrastructure of an incident and fail in your response efforts. This mistake in compromised scoping is the single greatest and most catastrophic failure made by security teams today. That sounded good, I'm going to repeat that. This mistake in compromised scoping is the single most common and catastrophic failure made by security teams today. In effect, you're not only failing to get the adversary out of your networks, you're tipping your hand and showing them what techniques you're aware of and monitoring them for, and which ones you're blind to, which ones they need to use in order to bypass your monitoring methods. And that's why we've put so much effort into unifying our products and giving you a powerful platform for seeing and understanding what's really going on in your security environment. We're not just developing market-leading technologies, we're packaging them and bringing them together to create greater value and to match your actual use cases and needs. So how can you move to this unified, intelligence-driven security strategy? While everyone's path is going to be different and come from different approaches and perspectives, they all include the following 5 steps. The first, and you like it because this one doesn't cost any money, acknowledgement. Acknowledge that the cyber world is an ugly and dangerous place, and that you are being actively targeted and compromised, and that you want to do something about it. You don't want your head buried in the sand any longer. If your security team doesn't believe this, bring someone in from the outside to show you which systems in your environment are already compromised. If you don't know any of these folks, come see me afterwards. I'll be happy to introduce you to several very scary people. Second, seek greater understanding. A real understanding of what matters in your organization. What are the critical processes? What is the real intellectual property? Who are the high-profile users? Which users have the greatest access to the most sensitive data? And what are the flows of data, users, applications, customers, partners that really matter in your business? This deeper understanding of what matters and how systems should be is absolutely instrumental in determining if that is how they actually are. Third, visibility, real visibility, forensic visibility, and then even more visibility. I can't say this one enough. Visibility, visibility, visibility. I can keep going. When your adversary changes techniques, visibility into everything is the only way that you can get the agility you need to win. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security by relying on the observables that you've become accustomed to over the years. Capture your network traffic. Observe the applications. Aggregate tremendous volumes of log data. Get all of that context that can show you everything possible about something suspicious. Given enough information, even really skilled adversaries will start sticking out like sore thumbs. Fourth, and I can't overemphasize how important this is, you need to make sure you have knowledgeable, highly skilled, and motivated staff or strong outsourced partners. These are the only folks that stand in the way between your organization and disaster. They're your warriors, the ones you're going to arm with new visibility. These are highly skilled, dedicated hunters that will define your success against today's threats and tomorrow's. Now, the good news is that many of these are the same folks that you have on board today. These warriors are the ones you're going to arm with this new visibility and specific skills that enable them to defend your enterprise. And finally, number 5, metrics. Define metrics in a governance model that can assure that your systems of controls marry up to your goals and expectations. Now, let me be very clear. Don't let the metrics blind you. Continuously rethink and refine them, rewrite them, argue about them. Spend more time thinking about and discussing metrics is ultimately as important as the metrics themselves. It unifies everyone in terms of common goals and a common understanding of what success and failure look like. Free yourself from the treadmill of constantly building and relying on historical knowledge of attack patterns and embrace this new world of agility. With intelligence-driven security, you can adapt a more agile stance. You can step into a world where you can confidently say that I am ready for any attack that comes my way, even if I've never seen it before, because the attacks that matter you will not have seen before. Our adversaries have proven that traditional methods can't keep up. Give up that losing battle and shift the rules of the game. Let's fight them on this new playing field. Thank you.